Okay. All right. It looks like it's working. Okay, folks, I'm a little early because I'm testing out the new headset and microphone. So if you're in here, so far it doesn't look like anybody's in yet. Oh, looks like one person. So some bonus stuff before I get deep into this. It looks like the RV business is actually going to lose a bank. A little bonus tidbit. I cannot release the information of who the bank is at this moment. I'll release that information probably the day prior to them announcing it, since I do have permission from them. We already lost Ally Financial a couple years ago. And it was very interesting because during that transition, Ally Financial got out of the RV business and Bank of the West got out of the car business. So it kind of gives you an idea. So what we're going to do is I have 8 emails I'm going to go over. If you can hear me okay, it sounds like when I did my sound check, it went okay. But if it's not going okay, just give me a comment. Let me know. Anyway, so we're going to get started here in about 3 minutes. We're going to give a few people a little chance to get in here. What I'm going to cover is I've got about 8 emails that came in over the last 3 days, questions from people. And then I'm going to take some questions from the comments section as well. The subject is going to be anything to do with RV loans, RV financing, whether it's good credit, bad credit, fair credit. I'm here to answer all of your questions. Little tidbit, I am not a bank. I do not make decisions on credit loans. This is just from my experience, the 11 years of doing finance in the RV business. And I have some good knowledge of what's transpired or transpiring right now as well. So any questions are fair game in that respect. I did disregard all the questions about generator ban. I'm going to cover that in a live stream next week when I have more information. I was promised another phone call. Just an update. I was promised a phone call by the CARB on that, and I'm yet to receive that phone call or that email back. So I'm going to give them another week before I do that. Until then, we'll give it another 4 or 5 minutes here. Let's see which one sounds better. Looks like this sounds about just fine. All right. Wait in just a few more minutes. I'm going to have another sip of my wine. Okay. Let's go ahead and get this show on the road. All right. My first email comes from Garrett in Arizona. Okay, let me skip through this. Okay. Hi, so I have a couple of questions for you regarding bad credit. I have really, really bad credit. I have a lot of credit card debt, but I make a lot of money. I own a company. It's a contracting company. And every single dealership I go to is asking for tax returns. I have not filed a tax return since 2019 because of the pandemic, I was unable to work for about 6 months in 2020 and reported that as a loss, but have not filed the return. Help me out. See if I can get a loan on a $50,000 motorhome. Okay. Well, let me start with the fact that there's a reason why they're asking for your tax returns. Tax returns show what you are giving the government, what you are showing the government as income. Okay. So when a dealership is asking for your tax returns, it's because they know that the bank is going to ask for them depending on how well you score. Now, I'm going to tell you in my experience, two of the banks, even though it is maybe California, whether it's Texas, whether it's Arizona, doesn't matter where you're at, they will take extensions. So if you have an extension filed with the IRS or your state government, then they will look at that as long as you have 2017 and 2018 tax returns completed. Now, here's the downside. You have not filed since 2020, which means you didn't file your 2019 returns, if I'm correct. If I'm wrong, send me another email. But when a bank looks at that, they're not going to put depreciation back in. So they're going to go off of your straight adjusted gross income. Okay. Now, what that means is that if you rate everything off as a self-employed person, you got a really hard time of getting a loan. The best bet that you have is to go down to your local bank or your local credit union and ask them for a personal loan, a 3 to 5 year loan. And here's where I'm going to give you that example. I sold a Shockwave toy hauler about 2 months ago to a guy in Orange County, and he owns a huge construction company. But if you go look at his tax returns, he doesn't show the government anything more than $24,900 a year. He doesn't want to pay taxes, so he writes everything off. And he's got such heavy credit card debt because he puts everything on credit cards. So what ends up happening with folks like this is they end up getting hard money loans through somebody that they know. In this case, he knew a guy that they built the building for. They contacted us. He took a huge 23% interest loan on the toy hauler, and knowing him, he'll probably pay it off in 2 or 3 years. So that's one way of going if you haven't filed any tax returns for the last 2 years and you're, don't have very good credit. All right, next email. Dear John, we are having a tough time understanding interest rates in the RV business. We have gone down to our local credit union, and they have told us that rates are as low as 2.99. But when we have them run our credit and run the contract that we got from the dealership, the interest rate jumped up 4%. When we go to the local dealership and ask them what their best rates are, they're starting us at 8%. I can go down and buy a car right now or a mortgage on a home for less than 4. Please help us out. We do not want to put any. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so I'm not going to finish that because I can't understand the last of it. I apologize, Cheryl. I do not. I'll have to ask you later. But let me go over interest rates in the RV business real quick, okay? Interest rates in the RV business are complicated. They're not simple. They're not easy, okay? Interest rates are based on, watch this, the dollar amount financed is the number one thing, okay? So when a prime bank like US Bank, Bank of the West, Bank of America, all lend money, they want to give the best interest rates to the most dollar amount. So that means if you're purchasing a $300,000 motorhome, you're going to go get a hell of a lot better rate than you are if you're buying a $25,000 travel trailer. Let me also start you with this. Credit unions advertise certain special rates on personal loans. Okay. So that 2.99 was probably not told to you in person. It probably was something you saw online through email or whatever the case may be. Now, how a credit union works is the shorter the loan term, the lower the interest rate. So, for example, out here in California, Logic's Federal Credit Union has a 4.99% interest rate on an RV loan as long as you're taking an 84-month term. Okay. Now, if you go to 180 months, then the rate goes up to 5.74. So, with that being said, it is a credit union works much different than how a dealership works. Now, if I go through US Bank, which is probably the lowest interest rate in the business right now, them and Bank of America are always neck and neck. If you are tier 1 credit in their score system and you're putting 20-30% down, I guarantee you by the time you go into finance and talk to the finance manager during your purchase, your rate's going to go down tremendously. What a dealership does is they will put the interest rate at 6 or 7 or 8% because they don't know what you're going to score when they actually run you through the bank. I'm going to explain that right now because that's very confusing. When you go down and you have them run your Experian score, TransUnion, Equifax, then what they're going to do is they're going to get a scorecard based on whatever filter that they paid for to run your credit. Running your credit no longer helps a dealership for credit score. It helps us determine what bank we should use. And then it also helps us determine how to structure the deal. Those days of auto approval programs are gone. Throw that crap out the window. It doesn't matter. We run it, a dealership runs it only for the fact that they need to look at the structure of the deal and how it's going to work. So let's dive down into that for you. If anybody else is watching, or if you watch us in the future, I've watched customers who I run at a 700 score even, score 819 with US Bank. I've seen 845 scores score tier 6 with Bank of the West. They do not have a tier system that is easy and logical for you to look at. There is such a big swing. So when they quote you an interest rate, if you really want to be quoted one, they're going to quote you higher than probably what you're going to actually get. And a lot of that has to do with that they don't even know how you're going to score with the bank. It has been so weird since this pandemic started that they are starting to look at different algorithms than they did prior. So to finish answering your question, Cheryl, what I would do if I were in your shoes is I'd go down to the dealership and actually have them run the deal through the bank and tell you what the rate's really going to be. At that point, I would put between 25 and 30% down since you are very conscious about interest rate. The more money you put down, at the same time, the more money that you finance, that balance will give you the best rate possible. Okay. All right. Oop, I got another threatening email from a guy who tells me that I don't know what I'm talking about, that RV generators again. Okay. Bob in Northern California. I am trying to buy a 2004 diesel pusher and I have excellent credit. to finance that old of a unit without close to half down, according to the banks themselves. I'm not trying to buy from a dealership. I am actually trying to buy private party. But every single bank I try to get approved with keeps wanting huge amounts of money down. How can I get away with buying an older unit and an older RV and put absolutely zero money out of my pocket? Bob, I'll be 100% honest with you. You're screwed. This is the problem. The cheaper the unit, the harder to get financed. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's a fact of life. You're in a no-win situation. I will tell you the best way is if you're a homeowner and you want to put zero money out of pocket, like your email says, then if I were in your shoes, I would go ahead and refinance your house. That's the absolute best way to do it. If you don't want to put any money out of pocket and you want to have zero down loans, the best way to ever do it is use your house. We are at a period in the RV business coming into 2022 where a $50,000 diesel pusher is 20 to 25 years old for a good one. You're talking about, financing older than a 2013 is going to be harder and harder. So if you are one of those guys that you absolutely, every deal you've ever made, whether it's a truck, a motorhome, a travel trailer, whatever the case may be, your whole life you've put zero money out of pocket, then if you're a homeowner, go down, refinance the house for whatever you need to take equity out and use that as your loan. That's the best way to do it. Now, if you were willing to come up with, let's say, 20% down, then I will, when this stream is all over, I'll email you and then I'll email you back the credit union you can use in Utah. Even though you may be living in California, this credit union in Utah actually does older units. And I'll put the link to that description box below. I'm sorry, I'll put the link in the description box below. Sorry, I've got cotton mouth today. If you're not a homeowner, or let's say that you're not willing to come up, you're just stingy, you're not going to put any money out of pocket. Oh, man, I mean, I'm going to tell you, Bob, from the bottom of my heart, as much as I want to tell you, hey, I got an answer for you, the real answer is you're not an RVer. If you're not going to come up with any money down and you want to buy an older, diesel pusher or gas coach motorhome because you don't want to spend more than 30 or 35 grand on a motorhome, you're just not an RVer. You're going to get a lot of hate comments for that, and I can appreciate them, but it's the way it is. Ooh. Okay, this is email number 4. Dear John, we have never had a loan on anything in the last 5 years. When we went down to our dealership here in Oregon, we were told, come back in 3 years when we have a car loan under our belt. We are putting half of the money down from the sale of our house and looking to full time in a fifth wheel. We have our truck already. We got a loan for it last week, but now we're having a tough time getting the loan for the fifth wheel. We make really good money, but just have always paid cash the last 5 years for everything. How can we possibly get a loan? Who would help us out outside of the dealership? Okay, I don't know Oregon's finance laws well enough to fully answer your question. But here's a good starting point: Alliant Federal Credit Union in Chicago, Illinois. They've bought some deals that I can't believe they would buy. And they also do full timers. Here's what is occurring: you're running into some of these dealerships that are in transition. So a lot of small mom and pop places are been bought out. They're been bought out by the big boys: RVR, Camping World, General RV, so on and so forth. And because of those transitions, you're seeing a lot of I don't care attitudes. And whether it's right or not, I have no comment on right now. That's not what this is about. But I would tell you that your best bet now that you've sold your home is to go to Alliant Federal Credit Union, because they will work directly with the dealership and they will ask for all the stuff they need directly from the dealer. And here's what you're going to need. First of all, you're going to have to be willing to pay for full-timer insurance up front before you take delivery of the motorhome. You're going to have some kind of insurance binder. And then the next thing you're going to have to do is set up basically a base camp. You're going to have to sign a 2 or 3 year lease or some kind of agreement of either staying on somebody's land or staying at an RV park. Whether you're going to move around or not, that's up to you. But you have to have that stuff in place for them to even want to deal with you. Because let me tell you guys, full-time RV loans are really, really, like pure full-time RV loans are really hard to get if you don't keep a house. Now, most folks know this, so they have a home and they rent it out. And that way they at least have a proof that they have a residence somewhere, so the bank doesn't think you're living in it. I'm going to tell you, at the end of the day, banks do not finance live-ins, my dear. Not at all. Now, Alliant Federal Credit Union does, and Essex Credit does. Those are the only two I know of right now in this day and age that will finance a full-timer. And they have a lot of things that you have to cross T's and dot I's on before they'll give you that loan. So I would try them first. If they don't pick you up, then the other chance you have, if you're still in your home or if you have a physical address you've been at for more than a year, is Aqua Finance. They're in Washington State, and they actually do direct loans with you, and they do them dealer direct as well. All right. Number 5. Okay. Dear John, my husband and I are looking to buy a motorhome next year. But now I've heard that interest rates are going to go up rather quickly. Do you have any? We have to wait until my husband is fully retired before we are willing to pull the trigger on the motorhome we want. But it seems like this business, it looks like we're going to be selling my business and getting on the road. Do you have any suggestions on what we can do to make sure that we are in the right situation financially? And what would you say would be a good down payment for a new diesel pusher? Wow. Okay. I'm going to be real brutal. Please forgive me for the brutality, but get your butt in gear and go buy one tomorrow. If you found the coach you want, get up off your rear ends before New Year's and go get it. You're not going to find it any cheaper, and interest rates are going to stay low. And let me tell you, it's going to force you to retire. I hear this story daily, guys. So I'm going to tell you 2 quick stories about this. Hopefully, this will help you. I know this really doesn't answer your question as far as financing, but I'll give you that in a second. Number one is I just had probably one of my wife's best friends, just passed away. He passed away, I think, yesterday or today. And let me tell you something. Had big dreams, big goals in his life, died in his 50s. Okay. Um, you never know when your last day's going to be. So if you keep waiting for retirement and got to wait for all the stars to align and all the pictures to be perfect, you're not going to buy a motorhome, especially when you're talking about if they don't have that unit in stock when you're ready. You're talking about 6 months to a year right now with all the part shortages. And at the same time, you're talking about astronomical pricing. If you found the bloody motorhome you want, get off your butt, you and your husband, and go buy it. And until you retire, go take weekend trips, get her all shaken down, go enjoy yourself. Let me tell you, life is too damn short anymore. I've watched too many friends, family members. I've watched too many people I've worked with in the industry. They're dying off before they're 60. And all of them always saying, when I retire, when I retire, when I retire. You know what? When I retire, I'm going to retire. And before I retire, I'm going to make sure all my ducks in a row too. But if I want to go do something like go on a yacht or live in a motorhome, I'm going to do it a year or two before I actually make the leap. I mean, first of all, I want to make sure my health is good if I want to go on the road. And number two, I want to go out and have a good time before then. Shoot, I'm drinking wine while I'm doing a live stream, for crying out loud. How many guys would do that? Now, to answer your question, I would put down. See, you didn't give me a dollar amount, but let's say you're going to go buy an Allegro bus. Okay. I'm going to give you a Tiffin example. I'm not the biggest fan of the motorhome. I like, Bob's not there anymore like he used to be. At least that's what folks have told me. I could be wrong. If Bob's hearing this, Bob Tiffin is listening to this live stream at some point, hey, kick my butt if I'm wrong. But guys, I'd put 100 grand, 150 grand down on something like that. I mean, I'd put a huge amount of money down. In some cases, if you're self-employed, which sounds like you had a business, I'd put as much money down as you can to avoid the proof of income. Sometimes I'd put half. All right, I'm only going to do one more because I read through these other two as I was going along, and the other two are kind of, we'll call it hate mail. So this last one says, my name is Carlos. I live in Nevada. I went down. I can't give the dealer's name, Carlos. Sorry. I went down to my local dealer and they told me that my interest rate would probably be somewhere between 18 to 25% interest. And it would put my payment for a new travel trailer. Again, I can't give out the name, Carlos. I'm sorry. And basically, how do I get a lower interest rate is the question. Carlos, build your credit and pay your bills on time. If somebody's quoting you 18 to 25% interest, generally there's a problem with your credit history somewhere. I know a lot of people at those dealers. I know a manager at the dealer you were at. And let me tell you, I worked with one of those managers, and probably one of the managers that told you this, because it would be the same thing I would tell you. I worked with him in Ventura, and he would tell you the same thing I would tell you, which is just pay your bills on time. Take 2 years away, go pay your bills on time if you can't pay 18% interest. Guys, bad credit in the RV business is different than cars. So, Carlos, let me be more specific. It means that you might have a 660, 670 score, which if you go down and buy your truck or you go buy a car right now, you're qualifying for rates in the threes, fours, and fives. Okay. In the RV business, if you're below 720, you're subprime right now. You're looking at interest rates between 9 and 25% interest if you're right around that. So at the end of the day, that is what you're going to have to do. Now, to me, it looks like I didn't have very many people watch this live, so obviously I'll keep this going. Since nobody's here to do the live chat portion of it, then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this thing off and I'm going to put on my regular microphone.